Good afternoon everyone, my name is Razik Azri. Today I want to talk about something that affects every one of us, the increasing energy bill and why we need to accelerate Malaysia's transition to renewable energy. Now let's start with one number, 7 billion ringgit a month. That is what the Malaysian government spent in April 2026 on fuel subsidies alone due to the Hormuz conflict. 7 billion is roughly enough to build 86 million ringgit secondary school every single day. The government estimates that this year will hit 40 billion on fuel subsidies, more than double the 15 billion allocation under budget 2026 and half of the total of all subsidies we spent on in 2024, which is 81 billion ringgit. So the question I want to ask you today, would you still call our energy policy affordable? Now, let's take a look at our subsidy costs. On top of the 81 billion ringgit in subsidies, 150 billion is locked into coal contracts through 2030. This is money we already committed to spending. Now, I know energy policy feels distant, but this affects all of us. Whether you're starting your career, worrying about cost of living and career decisions, or you're a seasoned government servant knowing how budget works, every single ringgit spent absorbing oil and coal price shocks is a ringgit not spent on schools and hospital your departments are trying to fund. Different reason, same bill. Now, why is our bill so unpredictable? Because we are deeply dependent on fuel we don't control. Now, 69% of our crude oil comes from the Middle East. 100% of the coal that powers Peninsula Malaysia is imported mostly from Indonesia. Now, this isn't a theory when shipping lanes near the Gulf in Hormuz close in 2026. Our fuel subsidy quadrupled almost overnight, from 700 million to 3.2 billion a month. We are exposed to decisions made thousands of kilometers away and we pay for it. Now let's talk about our own Malaysian fuel production, oil production. We are still a member of OPEC, correct? Yes. However, our own production has halved since the 1990s, while our refineries still needs the same amount. That gap is what we import. Now, let's take a look at how this exposure shows up on your electricity bill. There's a mechanism called AFA. When the coal or gas prices rise overseas, our bill rises automatically. We don't vote on it, it just happens. Since this mechanism began, Malaysia has spent 22.8 billion cushioning our electricity prices, and in a single year, we spent 16.4 billion just importing coal from Indonesia and Australia. That is not investment, that is just absorbing fuel price shocks. Now, on top of that, let's look at how coal prices, if they return to the 2022 peak, makes it that coal-fired electricity will cost roughly double what we pay today. There is even more bad news in the future. Now, let's make this concrete. If we took that 20 billion, a modest slice of 1 year subsidy bill of 81 billion, and redirected it into our infrastructure, here what we could build. 233 new secondary schools, 39 new hospitals, 80,000 affordable homes, or 30 km of new MRT lines or LRT lines. Now, let's split it every single year. About 58 schools, 10 hospitals, 20,000 homes, and 7 kilometers of rail. This is money we are spending. The only question is, where are we spending it on? So, what is the alternative? Here's the good news. Malaysia does not need a new plan. Malaysia has one. It's called the National Energy Transition Roadmap, launched in 2030. It targets 31% renewable energy by 2045, 40% by 2035, 70% by 2050, with full coal phase out by 2045. Now, there are three pillars in renewable energy that we could see in the NETR plan. The first one, solar, with the installation of 5.7 gigawatt as of last year, with the expanding of large-scale solar farm number 5, which adds 2 gigawatts, with the upcoming LSS6 coming with a new battery storage mandate, which I will explain in a moment. The second one, biomass. NETR plan targets 1.4 gigawatts of biomass, Why? Because it is dispatchable around the clock power from palm oil and agriculture waste, which we have in abundance. Now, the third one is waste to energy, which will turn our urban rubbish problem into a power asset. Now, together, that these three pillars means that transition does not depend on any single technology. In fact, it will help reduce some of the problems that we are facing today. Okay, now for the announcement that makes this conversation more timely than ever is that on July 2nd, the Deputy Prime Minister Fadila Yusof announced that Energy Transition Conference 2026 that Malaysia will repurpose the sites of retiring coal plants into renewable energy hubs and battery storage facilities. Now, why this matters? Coal plants already have grid connections. They're already on a land that government owns, and they already have the transmission capacity already on site. Now, instead of redoing everything from scratch and repurposing this asset, the government can turn them and just reconnect the LSS, which is large scale solar farms, into the grid. Simple. Now, as I said before, LSS6, which is the sixth and largest solar auction program, which adds 2,000 megawatts into the grid, will now require every project to include battery storage, which will resolve the intermittency problem by design. Now, the proof of concept is already working. We can see it in Sejikat Power Plant Sarawak. The coal site is already becoming a clean energy hub. That is not a future plan. That is this morning news and last year's commissioning ribbon. And this isn't only about big government projects. The transition is open to you, the rakyat. Now, the first program is Solar Atap. Solar Atap is a new rooftop solar scheme which lets homes and businesses install panel and sell surplus power back to TMB. Now, we can see that the second program is Selco. Selco lets you generate your own solar on site to cut your bills. And Cream lets a whole community pull rooftop solar and share it with your neighbors. And any businesses that cannot install solar due to structural or other matters can buy verified green energy certificate through the TMB MGAS system. The point is simple. Everybody in this room can take part. Now, this isn't just about the right thing to do. This is also about smart economic choices. NATR projects this transition could add 220 billion ringgit to our GDP, 1.7 trillion cumulatively by 2050 to create 310,000 new jobs by 2050. TMB as well has committed 43 billion to upgrade the grid between now and 2028. Imagine 48 billion in 3 years. Now, Malaysia is uniquely positioned as the ASEAN only net energy exporter, meaning that we can sell our excess energy to our neighbours and thus adding more income to our government coffers. The raw material for this transition exists. We just have not built it fast enough. Finally, we are already seeing that the transitions being moved by solar growing a third in a single year to 5.7 megawatts. Now, what happens if we delay it? The cost of standing still is huge. The import dependence is above 90% by 2030 and will be a real hit to GDP growth and to our society. Now, so let me leave you with this. We don't need a new plan. We need to move faster on the ones we already have and support the ones just announced. I'm not asking you, the Malaysians, to invent something new. I'm just asking you to support accelerating something Malaysia has already committed to. Thank you.